Star Trek Discovery Season 3. Have you seen it? I have. Let's talk about it on this episode of The Monitors. Season 3 of Star Trek Discovery just wrapped last week. The season followed Michael Burnham into the future, followed by the crew of Discovery, nearly a millennium after the events of Season 2 finale, where the crew escaped to protect the sphere data from control to save all organic life. The hurling of Michael Burnham and Discovery into the distant future does make sense in terms of trying to salvage the integrity of the Trek universe. In over 5 decades of Star Trek, there was never any mention of any spore drive or Spock having a foster sister before Discovery. If you buy that Discovery's disappearance into the future also deletes them from everyone's collective memory. Hey, I appreciate the attempt at retconning the franchise, even if there are still things that remain in the Discovery universe that still make no sense. One of them being the really cool reimagining of the Enterprise. That ship is cool. But let's talk about Season 3 on its own. Showrunners Alex Kurtzman and now Michelle Paradise were clearly hoping to give STD a clean slate, so to speak. And telling stories in the 32nd century frees the showrunners up from much of the risk of continuing to piss on established canon. So, Michael shows up in the future nearly a year before Discovery, and she finds out that what is left of the galaxy does not have a lot of dilithium left in it because of the burn. All dilithium across, everywhere, in all ships with active warp cores mysteriously and seemingly simultaneously exploded, reducing the Federation to a mere shadow of what it was. Rather than go through a play-by-play of the entire season, here are some of the highlights that set up the third season plotline. Michael lands in the future, as I said, a year before Discovery, and meets Cleveland Booker, a creature whisperer, an empath of some kind, with a really cool ship and a fat-ass cat, and he helps Michael survive as a courier and facilitate her search for Discovery until it arrives. Once Discovery arrives, and they spend an episode pissing off the Emerald Chain, the Orions, this season's bad guys, Saru is declared captain and Michael his number one, and they set course for Earth to seek out what is left of the Federation and follow up on a message sent from Starfleet Admiral Senatol. But there is no Federation on Earth, since Earth has since withdrawn from the Federation. They do find Adira Tal, a brilliant human gender non-binary teen who coincidentally carries a Trill symbiont with the memories of the Admiral who left the message, but cannot access the memories of him or any of the previous hosts. This then motivates a trip to the Trill homeworld, also no longer in the Federation. Neither is Vulcan, by the way. Just gotta get that out of the way. They aren't even Vulcan anymore, they're Navarre now. But anyway, Adira, with the help of Michael, connects to the symbiont Tal and also reconnects to their boyfriend Gray, who was the previous host until an untimely and fatal accident. Adira seems to be able to constantly converse with Gray, which is new. With Tal's memories restored, Discovery travels to the Federation headquarters, where they meet Admiral Charles Vance, Oded Fehr. They get debriefed, which facilitates the really cool recurring cameo of David Cronenberg as Kovich. The ship gets a wax and an oil change, that is a refit, so that they're mostly on par with the other ships of the era, and they are off to find the source of the burn in hopes of restoring the Federation to its former glory, more or less. So let's cover what does work. As usual, the show looks amazing. The visual effects are pretty polished. Everything looks good. The sets are okay, but there's enough location shoots that your eye is satisfied. While I've never been a fan of the Discovery as a ship, her refit is an improvement. She seems sleeker and her lines are more refined. The first half of the season is mostly spent setting up the plot, so the story moves at a decent pace. At first. After that, it gets a bit mundane. It feels like the showrunners have gotten into the car and made a shopping list to arrive at the store with not enough money. It seems almost like they're writing episode to episode with maybe a vague idea of where they might want to end up at the end of the season. Among the constant storylines of the season, one of my biggest gripes, Michael seems to no longer know her place amongst the Discovery crew because of the solitary years she spent looking for them. This sets up her extra rebellious nature and her eventual demotion, and by eventual I mean a couple episodes after being made first officer. It's not like Michael is the best at following orders anyway, but it was a way to seemingly manufacture some conflict without any real tension. There's also an episode early in the season where Saru tries to combat morale issues on the ship by inviting his senior staff to a dinner, where a soap opera-esque fight breaks out, which played more like a script for a reality TV show. The new characters seem pretty one-note for the most part. I like Oded Fehr, and I think he's a great choice as Admiral Vance, but Vance is a bit underwritten. Fehr seems to make the most out of the part. David Ajala is really reserved as Book. I'm usually a fan of underplaying, but unfortunately his Book as more of a plot device than bringing any real character to the story. Ajala doesn't do a bad job. I will give Blue Del Barrio credit for making Adira more interesting to watch. Granted, that character has much more to do and is written more completely than most of the new characters, since Adira is plot essential and is part of the very conscious movement to make Discovery as woke as possible. To say Adira is a non-traditional character is a massive understatement. Adira is a non-gender binary human Trill host who is in constant communication with the symbiont's previous host, who is Adira's deceased boyfriend. This is a milestone. One of my favorite new characters is Kopich, played by David Cronenberg, who seems to be the only character fast enough to match wits with Emperor Georgiou. Pity we only see him for a handful of episodes. The returning characters are okay. Doug Jones is actually strong as Saru. He finds that balance of optimism and gravitas against the moments of uncertainty under the surface and visible awkwardness. He's one of the few characters that feels like Trek. Michelle Yeoh is always good. Just having Georgiou around is enough to mix things up. Clearly the writers had little idea what to do with her, but Yeoh keeps her fun and she does get some of the best lines. Mary Wiseman's Tilly has actually gotten better. I feel like her character would be better served in a cast of characters that were more traditionally Trek. Instead, her shining moments get lost in the background noise. This also happens to Stamets, who, by the way, has the potential to be a really great character. But little was done with him this season, short of a meltdown during the season finale, which leaves him feeling a certain kind of way towards Michael. There was a minor subplot with Helm Officer Lieutenant Detmer dealing with PTSD, which gave Emily Coates a bit more to do this season, but ultimately, she remains a glorified background character along with Bryce, Reese, Owo, Nielsen, and Tig Notaro's Commander Reno, who is criminally underused. They should be giving her as many lines as possible because she is completely hilarious. Fortunately, Wilson Cruz's Dr. Culber is not as neglected as the others, though he could be used more as well. I will say that Cruz has given Culber a presence that ranks him in the annals of Trek Chief Medical Officers. That brings us to Michael Burnham. I know this will be a controversial statement to some. Sonequa Martin Green is a good actor. I'm sticking to that. She can carry a show. She's carried this show. But this season particularly, I don't think the writers have decided who she is. And some aspects of performance support that. Unlike her mutiny in the first season, she disobeys Saru this season to save Book, but in part because she's conflicted about where she belongs, because she spent a year waiting for Discovery to arrive. We needed more to justify that. As the lead of the show, if we don't know who Michael is, the show can't have any direction. Instead, it comes off as a flimsy excuse to turn her into Beckett Mariner, not into a captain. It just seems like lazy writing, and the season suffers for it. The overall story for Season 3 isn't horrible, it does meander, but we do get a halfway decent villain in Janet Kidder's Osira. I can't say don't watch it. I know, I hate to be so non-committal, but I'm conflicted. As a person of color, I appreciate that there's as much representation in the show as there is. But that alone can't be the whole point. It can't come at the expense of quality storytelling. Other franchises have made that mistake. You have to execute. Would I be as hard on the show if it weren't Trek in name? Probably not. If season 4 comes to fruition, I'll watch it in hopes that they hit their stride. Though I feel like... but that is my take. So Star Trek Discovery Season 3. Not bad. Not great. Still not Star Trek. Okay, another episode in the books. Have you seen Star Trek Discovery? What did you think? I shared my thoughts. Share yours below in the comments. Also, please give us a like and also subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. And make sure you click the bell so you get notified about new content. We're going to see you next time. Next time we're going to talk about the much anticipated A Night in Miami, directed by Regina King. And until then, you guys take care. Be good to yourselves. Be good to each other. Peace. And we're out. God bless.